Well, this is N2FQ, and I'm going to show a little demonstration on how to change a component in place without the need to unsolder its mounting leads. We have a resistor here that we're going to replace. We'll pretend that it's anchored in 2 points inside the radio. And what I use is a thing called a Swig, S-W-I-G. First, we'll cut the lead very close to the body of the defective component, leaving the original leads intact. Then we get a tool, and I'll show you how to make one of these. That's all this in the internet. And you take the new component lead, and we're just going to make a little coil. And this tool just helps with the making of the coil. We put it in and we just give it a wrap. The Swig originally had solder in between the coils, and the only thing you needed to do was just put them in place and use a soldering iron. This is what it looks like. Just a little coil. We take it, we put in the component in here, the new component and the old lead, and we will solder that in place. Then we'll take the other end of the new component and make a coil of it. Now the brass tubing that I'm using, I have 2 diameters for different thicknesses of leads, component leads. So some resistors has a thicker component leads than others, especially the large 1/2 watts and 2 watts. Straighten it out. It's much easier and cleaner when it's done in the radio because the fixture doesn't move around. Then we just solder in place and trim. Now the tool again is a piece of brass rod cut to length and 2 different sizes of tubing to insert the lead in, and I just taped it and put some heat shrinking tube just so it wouldn't be so harsh on my hands and keep it in place. I also soldered a couple of wires here so that the tubing doesn't shift while I'm working with it. Find that stuff in the local hardware store. Come in a little tube in different lengths. Here's a component that I replaced, one of many components that I replaced in the Collins 516 F2 power supply that I've been working on. I cut the lead close to the component body. The original leads are still in place, anchored with the original soldering. The new capacitor, I made a little swig rather, and then just soldered. It was very rapid. This is what it looks like. This is a, see if we can get a video of it, but this is a swig right here. Another one here. Another one back here. Here's a good example of another one. This is the anchor point. Cut the lead, made a swig on this component, dressed it up, put it right here, and soldered it. Now, this is a 516 F2. I decided to keep the original capacitor bodies. I just cut the with a tubing cutter. This is just a piece of aluminum with stuffing inside. Took the stuffing out. It was really easy to do. Put the new capacitor right inside there. Just use this as a holder and gives you the same look. Same thing here. Same thing here. And of course the CR1, which is the selenium rectifier, kept it in place. Just put a silicon 3 amp 800 volts here, and just hold it up with a resistor, which is 100 ohms. That's all I've done to this power supply, working like a champ. The only problem I had was getting a similar octal socket that matches the 1-inch hole. There are a lot of ceramic sockets that claim to go underneath, but in fact they go from top. And I didn't want to widen the hole or anything like that, so I put this bakelite. Sometime in the future, if I come across a E.F. Johnson type, I'll put one in and replace it, but for now it seems to be working okay. The socket had trauma, and I think that's the reason why the original capacitor wasn't working, so I found a chip off the old base. It might have been shortened out to the chassis. Anyway, it was took longer just to get the socket than it is to put the capacitor. The capacitor is just less than a couple of hours. You just, was done. So took more time to find the parts on the internet. Anyway, that's what is a Swig. Help someone do their boat anchor. This is N2FQ.